a service. Beyond that, you can beat them during everything else. Because they don't know you from Adam. If you attend a big church, they don't know you from Adam. My daughter was telling me about a lady that attended a big church, and somebody died in the family. She was on the praise team, and she had let them know that she had lost a relative. She didn't get a call from the pastor. She didn't get a prayer. She didn't get a card, and she didn't get anything. But see, typically that would have never happened in the confine of a small church. And she told my daughter, she said, I'm not going back there no more. See, they lose people every day and don't know that. You and I know that we lose people. And so I began going to this neighborhood. I've been going to this block over here. Said I can take you down today, 7th Center May, just a block over. I began knocking on doors every week. See, a lot of times we'll come to a session like this, and we'll get excited about an idea. We'll get excited about an idea, and within a week, a month, it dies. But I've discovered if you're going to do anything effective well, you got to stay at it. It doesn't matter. The natural and the spiritual is the same way. So I determined that every Saturday for 30 years, I knocked on doors. Either did it in the morning time or in the evening. We knocked on doors. We started knocking on doors, introducing ourselves to people, and people discovered that, hey, man, that pastor's different. He loves people. And I knock on doors. I knocked on this one lady's door over here, 7735 South May. I knocked on her door for 17 weeks in a row. Finally, she came. She brought her mother. She walked the aisle and gave her life to Jesus. Her mother became a deacon, the whole family, the whole thing. It's incredible what God has done. But on that next block, that same block I'm telling you, but the door knocking is fact, there are 3 men that are now in the ministry that we led to Jesus. A guy by the name of Wayman Thomas. I think you know Wayman Thomas. 19-year-old right here in the back of the alley. We led him to Jesus. A guy by the name of Ed Key, who now is the second man to the president of the community college in Broward, Florida, of the largest community college in the state of Florida, led him to Christ. A guy by the name of Michael Nelson. If you're part of the Black Fellowship, you've heard that name, Michael Nelson. He lived on the corner right there. He found Jesus. 3 guys off the same block that are now living for God as a result of that. But let me show you the illustration, show you how powerful it is. One day as I was getting ready to go out to do work in the community, I said, God, I'm not getting anybody from this block over here. This block over here is true. The same distance. There's no different. And because God said, you know why? He said, every time you walk out of the door, when you get to the corner, you take a left instead of taking a right. He said, that's where you planted all your seeds. And you reap your harvest where you plant your seeds. And if you don't plant no seed, you're not going to reap the harvest. See, as long as you and I sit in our building and and stuff like that, we're not going to reap a harvest. And here's something that changed my life because we go through changes as pastors. About 10 years ago, because I got in this church at the comparable side, most of my activity became behind my desk. And I discovered that I wasn't reaching anybody. And I went to this conference just like you're here, and you're not here by accident. And a guy began to describe why Jesus was so effective. He says Jesus' ministry was broken down into 3 33s. He says 33% of Jesus' time was spent with God the Father. Where he some kind of way communicate with God the Father. The other 33% of Jesus' time was spent with the disciples. And the other 3% of Jesus' time was spent in the marketplace. In fact, 95% of all Jesus' miracles happened outside of the doors of the church. Was in the marketplace. But what do we do as pastors? Most of our time, let me just tell you this, why there's so much failure today. Most of our time is spent with the disciples. Very little is spent with God the Father. That's why we defeated. That's why we discouraged. That's why we don't have any anointing. That's why we don't have any results, because we're not spending time with God. Or we give God 5 or 10 minutes and think we've done a favor. But if you're going to have God's touch and God's anointing and you're going to be effective for God, you've got to spend time with him. I spend more time with God now than I've ever done in my lifetime. And I've been in the ministry for 44 years. Almost every morning, without a shadow of a doubt, at 4:30, I crawl out of my bed. And before I get a cup of coffee, before I get anything, I spend time with God. about 6 o'clock, I'll get my breakfast. All right. And then I spend coming, and every day, even now, with all the responsibility, I'm not the lead pastor here in the morning, but even now, every day at 8 o'clock, I'm here. I'm here every morning.